Hey, I'm Jeff and welcome back to another video. This is my gorgeous Hoya australis lisa that's been in this tiny little pot here for about 4 years now. Now, before you go ripping yours out of its pot and putting it in a new one, there's a few things that you should do first. So let's check it out. I didn't think it was as long as it was since I last repotted it, but I made these trellises in a video in October of 2022. So this is definitely going to need a soil refresh for sure. And this thing just finished flowering. I wish I caught it on video here, but these flowers are extremely fragrant at night. Now, one of the biggest mistakes you can make when repotting a Hoya is choosing a pot that is too large. Now, most tropical houseplants enjoy a larger pot so they can have room to grow, but Hoyas are a little bit different. In their natural habitat, they will grow up trees, their roots will tuck into very tight crevices, and yeah, they just don't need a lot of room in their pot. Most tropical plants enjoy the extra space in those pots so they can get a large root system and get larger leaves and all that kind of stuff. If you choose a pot size that is quite a bit larger than the original one, a large amount of soil will hold on to massive amounts of water, and since Hoyas have a very small root system, the roots can't uptake the moisture from the soil, and it just leads to a very soggy environment. Then you're going to run into the dreaded root rot scenario. I just noticed it looked like there's some little teeth marks on this leaf, so I bet you one of my dogs took a little nibble. Ideally, you want to go up one pot size larger. So this one I measured is about a 3.5 inch pot. Let's get her in there. Something like that. So 3.5 inches. The next size is generally, this one's a 5.5, so it's gone up 2 inches. Now this one is just a little bit too large. I don't want to go that big. And I did find this plastic pot in my shed, and this one is about 4.5 inches. For the type of pot, you can use either plastic or terracotta. For this one, I'm just going to be using this little decorative pot. It is quite sturdy, so this will provide a little bit of extra stability support as well. Now, if you're finding your Hoyas aren't drying out fast enough, then terracotta could be a good option. It's very porous, it absorbs soil moisture, and it dries out quickly. So that's what you want with Hoyas, is give them a good thorough watering, and then they like to dry out completely. I would consider their care very similar to succulents. They like that really deep soak, but they need to dry out. I've grown Hoyas in both terracotta and plastic pots, and I've never had an issue with either of them. Now, how do you know when to repot a Hoya? Like I said, this one, it's probably been in the same soil for about 4 years. I don't even think I've really fertilized it that much. But generally, it's not a huge concern if you start to see some roots poking out the bottom like this. Hoyas typically like to be a little bit more snug in their pot. I'll give a couple other flowering tips closer to the end of the video, but if you have a Hoya in a larger pot, it's going to focus most of its energy on root growth as well as stem growth, and not those big, beautiful flowers which we all want to see. This one has a number of peduncles on it, which is, they are beautiful when it blooms. And like I said, they are extremely fragrant at night. You'll want to look for a couple clues to help you determine whether it needs to be repotted or not. If the soil is drying out really, really fast, or the water is basically just going right through the pot and it's not absorbing any of the moisture, then it needs to be repotted. If you're not seeing any new growth or very slow growth and possibly yellowing leaves or leaf drop, then that could be a good sign that it needs to be repotted. Or if the soil is extremely compact, it's not allowing any moisture to be absorbed in the soil, take it out of the pot, look at the roots, and give it some fresh soil. Now, this will make a little bit more sense when I take it out of the pot here, but before I do any repot of a Hoya, I will wait until it needs water, and then the day before or the night before, I will absolutely soak it, just so those roots have enough time to soak up as much moisture as they need. Plus, they also have very brittle roots, so when it is thoroughly watered, those roots will soften up a little bit, and then you'll just limit the root damage when you transfer it from the old soil to new soil. So give it a good thorough watering. Just soak it kind of 24 hours before you do your repot, but only water it if it needs to be watered. In most of my videos, I share this cheap little hack here just to determine whether your plant needs to be watered or not. A lot of times you can tell by the weight of the pot, but I just like to use one of these little wood skewer things that I picked up. It's like a 100 pack from the dollar store. Stick it in the soil, push it all the way to the bottom, let it sit there for a moment. Any soil, like any moisture in the soil, will transfer over to the stick, and then you can reference the moisture line with the stick here. So The soil line's probably right about here. So you can see there's some soil actually sticking to the wood, and I can feel moisture all the way up to here. So this is a good way to determine the level of soil moisture in your pot without, having to stick your whole finger in there. This works exceptionally well for larger plants as well that you can't get all the way to the bottom. Just get yourself a pack of these wood skewers. Everyone's gonna have their own soil mixture, but I'm gonna be using a cactus and succulent mix. So I'll put maybe 1 scoop, maybe 1.5 into here. Then I'm gonna add some extra perlite. So I'll do the same thing, about 1.5 scoops. Something like that. And then I might even toss in a little bit of the aeroid mix. It's just a nice chunky mixture. And the reason why I'm adding this as opposed to just a regular tropical soil is because it needs the airflow to the roots. If you have that really heavy peat-based soil, you run the risk of rotting roots. So I think something like that should be sufficient. It's well draining, it's airy, but it's still going to retain some soil moisture. Now my goal is to preserve the root ball as long as it's not like one big hard rock, and I'm gonna leave it relatively intact. I don't want to disturb this trellis as well. So I'm just gonna take my little butter knife here, go around the edge of the pot, just kind of loosen it up a little bit, and hopefully it all comes out in one piece. You can squeeze the sides here as well. I'm actually really curious to see what the overall root ball looks like. Okay, so this is actually perfect. This is not a root-bound Hoya. It's definitely nice and cozy in there, but that is a super healthy root system, and I'm actually kind of surprised it's not any larger than this. Now the only thing I'm going to do is take my pencil and just break apart these bottom roots just so they're growing downwards. So just loosen them up just ever so slightly, maybe something like that, just so they're not one big clump at the bottom here. Now before I put it in this pot, I'm just going to show you or just compare both of these pots. So this is the original one. It's a little bit taller, it's slightly wider. This one is pretty much on 4 inches, and this one is about 4.5. So it really doesn't leave much room for the roots to expand. Now, if I look at a pot like this, this is a 4.5 inch terracotta. It's slightly shorter. It's about maybe 3 3/4. Now, from this pot size to this one is technically the next pot size. So you can see just how much more room there is in this. It's it's absolutely massive. Now, when you throw a Hoya in a pot like this, you can see there's maybe a finger and a half width of extra room. When you put it in this one, same thing. It's just slightly larger than the last one. I'm still going to go with this one, but there's probably going to be some comments saying I should have gone with the larger one just for more root expansion over time. But this is just what I'm going to be doing today. You can choose whatever pot size you want. Just be aware that if you go larger, it's just going to hold on to moisture for longer, but it's not going to be actually that bad if it's in terracotta and a well draining mix. Yeah, I think I'm going to stick with this one for now. And we'll see how it goes. I'm just going to scoop in some of this soil here. For this one, it's in a little plastic pot, and it's going to hold on to moisture longer than if it was in terracotta. So I'm okay with going with this little one here. Plus, I really don't have the extra space to put it in that big giant pot. It's in my west-facing window on the ledge, so I don't have extra room for a big giant pot with this one too. So this is what it's going with. And that's it. I'm just going to poke down the soil around the roots, just make sure it's not going to flop over here. Everything looks nice and upright. And that is all I'm going to do. I'm not going to water it because I watered it yesterday, so I'll probably give it maybe a good another week or two. Now in about 2 months' time, I'm going to give it the little slow release pellets. You just add a bunch into the top there, mix it in the soil, and every time you water, it's just going to provide nutrients to the root system. But you have to be careful when you initially repot it, because most like commercial potting soils will have some form of fertilizer. This one has a very, very low dose, but there are some brands out there that actually fertilize up to like 9 months, so 6 or 9 months. So you just don't want to double dose and then just absolutely fry those roots. Now, like I said, I'm going to be using this cover pot. It's just a porcelain or ceramic, whatever you want to call it. It's going to provide some nice stability and support. Now, the last little tip, I guess, or trick to get your Hoya plants to flower is to just stress them out a little bit. Sometimes that means just giving them a little bit more light than what they currently get, or even just letting it get a little bit drier than normal. So if you're having to water maybe like once every 12 to 14 days, maybe bump that back just by a couple days. So maybe 16 to 18 days in between watering. Now it just kind of signals the plant that it's under a little bit of stress. It's not receiving as much moisture and it's receiving more light, and that generally translates to more flower growth. It basically tricks it into thinking it's dying, it's got to reproduce, it pumps out some flowers, and then you can reward it with some water. But that's just a little way to trick the plant into flowering, but obviously you just want to make sure that it gets its ideal conditions. So give it kind of that medium light, water when the soil is absolutely bone dry, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I have a number of Hoyas, but I had way more a couple of years ago. Yeah, I don't know what happened. You just kind of, things just go in cycles. So you like a plant for a little while and then you just don't really care about it. Sometimes it gets a little bit crazy and out of control and you don't know how to deal with it. You just neglect it and then it pretty much dies. And that's definitely the case of what happened to most of mine. But I'm kind of getting back into Hoyas. So the way I controlled this one is just I wrapped it around this trellis. I think there's maybe 3 or 4 separate stems in this one. And as it comes up to the bottom, then I just kind of loop it around and yeah, just in circles. So that's going to be pretty much it for this video. If you have any comments or questions, please leave it in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed this and found it informative. Thanks for watching. Take care.